So live industry chats, they're basically webinars set up by Nepris and the professional. So Nepris and the professional choose the topic, they choose the time, and they choose the date. All you have to do is sign up and show up. So like I said, a little bit more difficult to coordinate your schedule with our industry chat schedule at this point in the year. Normally we have anywhere from like up to 90 in live industry chats scheduled normally. As we're closing out to the year, obviously we're not scheduling those for mid to late June or July. So there's a little less on the calendar right now. But typically when you go to look at our upcoming industry chats, there's so many on the calendar and we have multiple per day. So it really isn't that hard when we have a full schedule to find what you're looking for. But so keep that in mind while we're exploring the live industry chats, that you probably aren't going to find something that you could attend live just because of scheduling. But there is an option for that to get emailed to you. So that's kind of the option we'll explore today. I mean, you can probably see this big orange button that says explore live industry chats. But if you remember from last week, I like to navigate through this top white banner since it doesn't go away. So if I hover over session, we're going to click the first option, upcoming industry chats. So you do have the option at the top to search by a keyword. Maybe if you have something in mind that you're looking for an industry chat for. Otherwise, if you keep scrolling down, we have some filters on the side. You can filter it by schedule. These industry chat series, they're marked, if you can see this, professionalism and succeeding in the workplace. This little gray box up here that says Samsung Employability Skills Series. We have industry chat series with different partners where it doesn't mean you have to sign up for all of them if you're going to go to a live industry chat that's a part of a series. It's just letting you know that there's probably some old ones in our library and some coming up in case you really like the chat. You can kind of follow along on the series. So you can search just by series. Then we have career clusters and then grade levels. And then before I let you search around, I'm just going to show you some of the information we get on this little tile. Like I said, if the video icon or the video picture has a colored square in the top left corner, that means it's a part of a series. Then we have the title, a brief description, the date and time. This person is who's going to be leading the chat, the professional, and then who they work for. And then they're usually tagged by like a grade band that this content is good for these ages. And then it'll be tagged by a series if it's a part of one. So if you can find one that fits your schedule, awesome. But what I want you to focus on while we're searching is just finding a topic that fits a group of students or a class that you have. So don't worry so much about the date and time at this point, just since it's hard to coordinate schedules with only a month left of school. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to maybe scroll around. You can filter through or search through the filters. And then whenever you find one that you're interested, whether it fits your schedule or not, we're just going to click the title and it will open the chat page. I'm going to pick perseverance and ingenuity, paving the way for human exploration on Mars.
So I found a bunch of these and I've signed up for like the notify me when the recording's available. But my question is there opportunities to how do we have our students go without us? Like I have 4 distance learning students and it would be great for them to be able to attend because they've been able to go to webinars and like online internships before without me having to be with them. Is there a way to do that with these?
So technically We ask that a teacher is present if there's going to be students. But once we sign up, there's this access code. Once you select the chat you want, if you want a student to go to it live, you just give them this access code. And I can show you at the end what a student account looks like. When they log in, their dashboard does not look like ours at all. Theirs has a spot a big, huge spot, can't miss it, says access code, where they just enter this code. And then on the day that it's happening, they will get this little orange banner, just like teachers do if they've already entered that access code, and then they just join at the time. So technically, I can't tell you, you can just give this to your students and not go, but there's the information.
What about accessing the recording?
If you're going to have it emailed to you, it takes a week, sometimes 2 weeks for the video editing team to finish with it. And then as soon as it is done and they upload it to our platform, you'll get an email with that video, and then you could share the video. But there's no way for students to access industry chats without going through a teacher. So they either have to have this access code to join it remotely on their own, or you would have to share the video once you get it. Right. So has everyone found an industry chat that they're interested in?
I wanted to see the one with the work in collaboration, the one that earlier that you had on there.
Oh, okay. Are you following along, or do you want me to click the one?
You can click on it. Go ahead. Yeah, teamwork.
Well, if you want a copy of this video, you have to, I can't.
Okay. I have to go.
If I choose send me the email, I'll get the email. I can't send it to you because it's tied to your account.
Right. Okay. I get it. I was just curious to kind of see, because we work on things like that in my classes. We talk about once you get the job, how you keep it and what you need to do. And that would be good for them to kind of look at that. But my problem is the majority of my students, I see them for job class in the afternoons. So if these webinars are in the morning, I'd be like, Kiana, I'd have to have it sent to me and for us to watch it in the afternoon type of thing.
Yeah. So normally we have, I mean, not the same industry chat multiple times a day, but we do typically have something on every topic happening at different times throughout the month. So like right now we're not scheduling new ones right now because the school year is coming to an end. And of course, fixing, matching your schedule with only so many days to work with. So you can click, I can't attend, but please email me this video. And so as soon as our video editing team is done with it, you'll get an email with that video. So then you can share with your students. Otherwise, if you can attend, I'm going to show you just what the registration form looks like. So to register, obviously I click register. Oh, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself now. I want to show you guys some more of the information on the page before I register. So we have a description. It's a little bit more than what's on the front. Then the speaker always adds key questions that they're going to answer or talk about during their presentation. And then you get expected outcomes. Sometimes it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes when we have a chat, a couple days before the industry chat, the professional will upload some documents. It might be like a form for students to fill out while they're listening. It could be just like a flyer that goes along with what the presenter is talking about. Could be a reflection sheet. That is totally up to the presenter, but sometimes they'll upload documents that your students can kind of have a piece of paper in front of them that they're working on or taking notes with. If that ever happens, when live industry chats are first scheduled, they typically don't add the documents, but if later down the road, your presenter does add some, you'll get a notification and it'll show up in this little messages center. You'll have little red one to say that you have a message, and then it'll let you know that your presenter has uploaded documents, so that if you want to use those while you're attending the chat or while you're watching the email or the video afterwards, even, you can have those. You can also find out more about the presenter. So we can find out their name and where they work. But if I click this, it'll take me to, I can view their profile. And sometimes it just is handy if you want to know more about the presenter. Their profile isn't filled out, but a lot of our really active presenters, they do fill out their bio. So they have a lot about what they actually do in their job, how they got their job, maybe what kind of schooling or classes they had to take. So if you wanted to, your class wanted to look at the presenter and see what it took to get them where they were, what their job is in this video, you could do some research on them that way. So I'm going to go to the registration page. This number of students, it does not matter really what number you put in. It's a self-reported matrix. It does play into your impact score on your dashboard if you've ever noticed that. But if you put 10 kids and you have 100 show up, awesome, have 100 students come. If you put 100 and only 10 show up, that's fine too. There's no like rules or anything on this number. It's totally self-reported. It can be like your closest guess. It doesn't have to be exact. Then we ask for your phone number only in case there's a last minute cancellation. This doesn't happen very often. And usually if someone does cancel, we get someone to fill their spot anyways. But if something happened where there was a cancellation last minute, we want to be able to get a hold of you really quickly. So we just ask for your number in case that happens. The last thing, if you guys are going through the registration page with me, you might not have this at the bottom. But if you ever import students and then you make classes, I can assign this to be every student in my biology class will now be assigned to this live industry chat. So when I hit save, I don't have to give any students in this class an access code anymore. Since I'm assigning it to them, they'll have access the day up. So that's another way, and you can choose multiple classes if you want. I'm going to hit cancel instead of save. So that's basically live industry chats. Do you guys have any questions on those? Pretty straightforward. Just like a webinar, all you got to do is sign up and show up. So our next live engagement model, the teacher requested sessions, these one does take a little bit more effort on the teacher's part, a little bit more time. But the value really is that you can, instead of, signing up for this live industry chat on a topic you didn't totally get to pick, you really get to, with teacher requested sessions, you get to pick, you get to decide everything down to even what skills the presenter has. So I really love this engagement model. So if you're going to follow along with me, I'm going to hover over session at the top, and then I'm going to choose the third option, says create session request. And it should take you to a form that says step 1 of 7. And while we're hopping over there, I'm going to hop back to my, my PowerPoint real quick. These are just some examples of how teachers have used teacher requested sessions in the past. And they're definitely, this is not an extensive list. I like to say, if you can dream it, we can make it happen. So with our teacher requested sessions, it's a live interaction between your students and a professional, but you get to pick what type of interaction, who the professional is, what they're going to be talking about. So some of these options, a topic presentation is going to be a lot like a webinar, where maybe kind of Sarah, how you were talking, maybe you want a store clerk to just come in and talk about their job. And so they're talking about maybe they are talking about the interview process that they took to get the job, their day-to-day tasks in the job, kind of stuff like that, general topic presentations. Then we do a lot of work with projects. We can do project mentoring, where at a reoccurring time that you decide, a professional is meeting with a student or groups of students while they're working on their project and giving them.
Did it ever happen with the mouth?
I don't know.
Giving them
No.
continuous
15
feedback.
minutes. So you'll have to
through
do
the
it here while I
process.
go get the kids.
Or we've
Travis,
had
you're unmuted.
Uh-oh. Sorry, thank you.
it always takes me a minute to figure out if someone's trying to talk to me or they just forget they're unmuted. I'm like, oh wait, is that me?
No, sorry about that. I do have to
No,
get the
you're
kids at
good.
1:30.
The project evaluations, we've also had experts come in to a class just for the final evaluation of a project. And in that case, you provide like the rubric, the directions to the professional. And then on the final day, when students bring in their project, the professionals on the computer evaluating how they did. We saw this used in a really cool way at a culinary school. This group of students was tasked to create a food truck. And at the end of their project, they had a student who went to their school and already started a food truck come in and evaluate their food truck idea and give them feedback. So these project mentoring and evaluations really helps with student buy-in and excitement on the activity that they're going to do. And then also can bring in someone from the field that they're, they're wanting to work in to come give feedback on a project, which is really huge for students. We've done some live product demonstrations. These teacher requested sessions are great for virtual tours or field trips. So you can get a tour of like a factory you could get a tour of a grocery store and what the clerks do behind the scenes. The virtual tours and field trips can be pretty much used in any way there's an inside something that your students want to see. I also saw a really cool one that's actually in our video library called Making Money. And for the virtual tour, they were two chemists that work in Washington, D.C. that make money. And it was a second grade class just learning about money. They got to watch the chemists actually make money. They showed them the cutting machines and how they cut paper, how they print paper. And it was really exciting for the students to, see how money was made. And that type of interaction, that's a good example of what you can do with Nepris. Without Nepris, we would never even be able to see inside of that building because they don't let people in that building where they make money. So you get to create kind of experiences where even if there was no pandemic and you could just go wherever for a field trip, you still get to get inside places that you couldn't get inside normally.
So I think this is more likely the biggest part that as transition teachers we would use. Mm-hmm. I can see us as during our transition meetings, our appointed transition meetings, meeting together and coming up with maybe weekly or monthly topics, virtual job shadows, because I think that's the big one, is the virtual job shadows would be really cool, as well as, and I don't know if this would go into like project mentors, but like building like resumes and having someone like, here's the process of building this resume, or here's the process of developing answers to interview questions, where it's kind of like not the soft skills, but the things that you need to even apply for a job. Mm-hmm. I can see us really needing that. And it would be really cool if we could if we come up as a transition team, like all of the transition teachers come up with these topics with an understanding of like, this is the topic, and then here's the support level of our students that we need. Mm-hmm. Could we get started on this now for the next school year to start making those requests? And then kind of develop a schedule almost with y'all, where it's like always on Thursdays at this time is going to be for students that need more support, with the same topic being presented an hour later for the students that need less support. Mm-hmm. Would that be?
Absolutely. There's no time limit on when well, there is a time limit on how close you can schedule, but not as on how far away. So yeah, if you guys had all these ideas and you wanted to start kind of making those requests for your master schedule, you can start now. And we do use these teacher requested sessions a lot for like mock interviews, resume writing, like interview tips. Even it doesn't have to be a mock interview necessarily. You can do like a whole session on just how to answer interview questions, which is a really big skill to have. Yeah, and
I really do think this is the biggest part for us because our needs are so specific, and something that might be appropriate for elementary, where some of our students need that support level in the class, but the actual content might not be as appropriate for those. Like looking through all of the sessions and everything, there's a lot of like virtual field trip to go to the, like for elementary, it's like there's more of that.
Go to the zoo.
Yeah, whereas like the high school level, which might be too much for some of our, or not enough support for our students, like in Vanessa's classroom, or maybe Sarah, your classroom. I don't know about you, Karen, too, but it might need to be slower paced in several sessions. So this is really cool. I'm really excited about this part.
Yes. And so we're gonna jump to the session request form, and I'll make sure you guys have so many ideas on how to use this. We'll just point out like the spots where you would indicate, a different kind of interaction. But before I move to the form, since you're talking about kind of building a master schedule, I have seen a lot of like CTE teachers or career counselors, because, they don't have just a class of students that they work with. So when they kind of working with a general population of students and not really like, this is my first period class, I've seen them make kind of like a master schedule for the month. And, maybe they have on Monday, they're having a topic presentation on this job. And then on Wednesday, you get to a virtual tour or job shadow of that career, what they're doing. And then on Friday, there's something else that kind of goes with it. And they plan these out. And on your schedule, when you have, once you make these, you'll get access codes to share with your students, just like those live industry chats. So what they did was they just had like the title, the time, and then the access code to the thing on that day, so that if a student is looking at the calendar and they're interested in something, they have the access code they can take and go join on their own. If that makes sense. Yeah. All right. So let's hop over to the form. So if you have a session in mind that you're, that you might want to kind of create for your students with what's left of the year, we can fill that form. I'm going to fill it out kind of very messy because I'm different points. I'm going to show you where you would have to note something special. So my form is not going to make sense if as a full, if I look at it. But the goal would be that you guys are also filling this out for a session that you actually want to submit for. Do you guys, I know that there's not much time left in the year. Is there any one of these things on this slide that you guys think you would either go with something you're already teaching or working on with your students that you could add in?
Job shadowing. Yeah, like it. Sarah had a good idea, like a stock clerk or something like that would be great.
I'll make sure.
Because that's the other thing, is a lot of the Nepris stuff is dependent on like high school diplomas or going to college, where some of our students, the majority of our students, will not get a diploma. So this way we can tailor it more to like, one, their dreams, but also like education and skill level, what is needed for it.
Yeah. So I'll make sure we just really go over job shadowing. And then maybe instead of like a mock interview, we're thinking more of like interview help. Is that kind of where we're thinking? Maybe not totally don't throw them into mock interviews yet. We can focus on giving them interview support, and then maybe resume building. Awesome. Okay. So if on the very first field that we have to fill out for our session type, you'll notice that this list is even shorter than the one I just showed you on my slide. So of course, if you're doing a topic presentation or the project stuff, those are on this list for you. If you're doing something like the virtual job shadow or resume building, anything like that, we're just going to choose not specified. And then I always make sure that since the session type wasn't in the dropdown, I'm just going to describe my session type in the title. So you can see here, I've done ones for agricultural mock interviews, resume writing. Here are some tours we filled out for a career professional panel, which is pretty cool if you want multiple careers on a board for your students. So I'm going to do the job shadow. So in my title, I'm going to call it job shadow. And then maybe I'll write store clerk in the title. Oh my goodness. There we go. So I know that we want to do a job shadow with someone who works as a store clerk. This class is, it's kind of a self-reported matrix. It does give your professional a little bit of insight as to what class they're talking to. So if you have a specific class, it's easiest to, you're like a core teacher and you write my biology class. If you don't have a specific class, you can always just write like career readiness, since those kids, you're trying to help them find careers or jobs. And then your grade level, you can type whatever you want in this. You don't have to choose from the drop down, but if you scroll down, we do have like post-secondary or adult education. But in all these fields, you can just type, oh, just kidding. So grade level, it's good to know. Grade level, you have to pick from the drop down. All the other fields, you can type whatever you want. You don't have to select from the drop down. Okay. So step one is basically just kind of setting up your session. What kind of session is it and who's it for? Step two is asking what your class is studying, but I don't want you to relate it to the learning quite yet. It's kind of relating like what your class was doing and now why you want this person in. It's still focused on setting up the session. So maybe I'm letting them know, like I have a handful of students who are just really interested in being a store clerk. They want to know what a day in the life as a store clerk looks like. So this is step two. It's confusing because it asks what you're studying, but it's still related to the why you're setting up this session, not so much what you've already learned in the classroom. So this is the big why. Sorry about that. Do you guys want me to pause while you fill these out, or are you just kind of watching, taking notes?
I'm watching.
I'm just watching.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I'm just watching you.
Fine. Okay, so step three, what do you want your students to learn from the industry expert? This is kind of like your outcomes from your lesson. So these are trying to relate to outcomes, and maybe, if you're working not with a specific class of of students, your learning outcomes could just be to expose them to other careers that they can get with a GED. If that's the learning outcome for the group of students you're putting this on for, that's good information for the expert to know that, there's students that are getting their GEDs and looking for possible career opportunities. It's learning outcomes, but I know you guys don't I'm assuming like Kiana, you don't just teach a lesson that has a real lesson-y script to it.
We do. It just depends on what I'm teaching, and we also have direct instruction. So where it's completely scripted, you don't say anything outside of the script. So that varies on what we're teaching.
Okay.
I just want to know is in anywhere in these steps, and obviously you're going to get to them, but I'm just going to ask ahead. Is there any place to indicate the level of support, or maybe requesting this is two separate sessions we would like for students who receive special education services, one who need more support, one who need less, and then indicating what that support kind of looks like?
Yes. There really isn't a spot in the actual questions that they ask, but on the last step, there's just an additional notes and that I'll show you where that is. That's where you would type it. Also, I'm going to answer your one question now, but I'll show you when we're done. So I can't, for every session that you need, you have to fill out a new form. So if you did want 2 sessions for the same thing and maybe one, like, 2 sessions that are the same, just different levels of support, you would still have to submit 2 of these since they're 2 different sessions. And then you would just change the level of support. But there is an easy way to copy forms that you've already made, so you don't have to fill this out by hand every time. And I will show you how to get there. So any questions on step 3? Nope. All right. Step 4 is asking what questions the expert should try to answer. These could be related to key questions from your lesson. They could be student generated questions, or if you as the teacher have any questions that you specifically want this expert to answer, you can list them here. So I like, especially with kind of the job shadowing, if you know ahead of time that you're going to set some stuff up for students, maybe for the store clerk, you ask which students are interested in becoming a store clerk, and then they get to generate some questions that they have for the professional. And during the interaction, there is always time for students to ask their own questions out loud. But sometimes it's nice to just type some of them here so the expert kind of is a little more prepared coming into your class. So step 5, now we're going to get into picking our professional. So the industry preference is kind of like what field they work in, maybe. And I can type in whatever I want. Maybe I want someone from a grocery store. So these are the fields that you can type whatever you want in. It doesn't have to be from the drop down. And then for specialties and skills preference, we have kind of soft skills like public speaking, if you want them to be good public speakers. We also have some like resume skills. Maybe if you want them to get that help with resume writing, we want someone who has resume development as a skill. We also have the option in here. You can type in bilingual, so that if you do have some bilingual students, maybe it's helpful for them to get an expert that not only might look and sound like them, but one they can understand better. So that is a great option on there. And then company preference. This is the only field that you can leave blank, that this form will let you leave blank. So you don't have to add a company. But the idea of this company preference is if there's a company in your community that either you already have relationships with, or a company that a lot of students go and work for after high school, you can put that company here. So maybe we don't have any special grocery stores really in Oregon where I live. So if I really want to make sure like this person is from Fred Meyer, maybe my students are, Fred Meyer is a big, huge grocery store in my area, I can put that there. So it's only really adding the company preference if it's a company in your area that students might be interested in working for. Or like if you were going to do like a product demonstration, if there was a specific company that your students want to see, but you can leave this one blank.
So let's say that if we wrote Vaughn's in there for a grocery store or Costco, but we could also just like save this entire draft and then refill in the company preference because we wanted our students to have a multiple like options and seeing like comparing and contrasting the different grocery stores, let's say. Mm-hmm. Or would we just put all of the different ones in there just one time?
If you wanted to do like multiple sessions with a clerk and someone from different grocery stores, I would just put in one at a time. So maybe right now I put Fred Meyer, and then when I go to copy this, I just make sure I click out of Fred Meyer and I enter Costco or something. Yep. So just remember when you're filling these out, all these questions are specific to one session. So if you are doing multiple sessions, you'll have to copy it and then change some fields. I just keep that in mind. So I wouldn't want to put Fred Meyer and Costco on here, because then what if I submit two and I get two people from the same Costco? And they because I had them both on there. Yep. Okay. And then step 6 is setting up like just kind of the session with time. The first question is how many students will participate. There is really no rule to this. We request that there's at least 3 students participating. That's just out of respect for the professional taking their time out of their day. But if you ever had less students or more students show up, it's not like we would cancel your session or kick you out. Again, it's kind of a self-reported matrix. It's also to let the professional know how many students they'll be working with during that session. Because what they do during a session might differ if they have 3 kids or 30 kids in a session. And then when you pick, oh, go ahead.
If we're projecting this though, so if I'm just putting this on my projector and the students are they're not all joining this Zoom or whatnot, that they're just joining by looking, that's fine too, right?
Oh,
like
of
if
course,
I'm the only one that joins, okay.
I mean, typically this was designed to play like that in a classroom, whether you're doing the industry chats or these teacher requested session. The idea was that it's one big projector. Luckily with COVID, we got to find new ways to use our platform digitally. So you can invite students who are remote to come to these still. And like I said, if you are projecting it, I mean, I would still put in, maybe I have 15 students in that class. But yeah, it doesn't mean that 15 students are logging into the same account. It just means it's just so the presenter knows how many students will be present. And then when you're picking your dates, we do ask that you give us like a 2-week window. 2 weeks is usually pretty good, gives us a good amount of time to reach out to some professionals in the areas you're looking in, and then get them to sign up for your session. When we're thinking about store clerks, it is a popular job. I mean, I just went to Winco before this session and there was like 15 employees working at the different check stands. So there are a lot of grocery store clerks out there. So that one, it might not be as hard to fill. It's just a matter of us reaching out to some grocery stores and seeing if they have clerks that would be interested in. But if you're ever looking for a little more niche of a career, like we had someone request a chicken therapist once. Oh yes, I was waiting for, yeah, exactly our reaction when we got this request. We were like, what the heck is a chicken therapist? So it took some time to do some research into figuring out what that was, finding chicken therapists, and then finding enough that we could reach out to that one would commit to a session. So if you're ever looking for a career that is a little bit more niche, or a job that it might be harder for us to get a hold of someone in that field, giving us more than 2 weeks is always greatly appreciated so that we can make sure we get exactly what you want for this session. So things like grocery store, I think setting those up in advance might be a great idea, because we have a lot of grocery store clerks in every town, none on our platform, I don't think. So it would take some back end work on our part to just get those clerks to fill sessions. So just keep that in mind if, grocery store clerk is a common job, but it might be still a little bit difficult to reach out to them and get them on our site.
I think the best way that we could do this is maybe having like one teacher who represents the teachers that focus more on students who need more support, and then one teacher, and I'd be willing to do this for students who need less support, and then meeting with those groups of teachers and just planning it all out. So that way we have like a whole year's worth of information that we can request in advance, and then it'd be planned for the next year starting in August, versus like us just like, okay, we've got 2 weeks, let's figure something out. Like it'd be great if it was just like this is our year.
Yeah.
Like, we've created this idea of
Already
these are the
done.
things that we want our students to job shadow, because like we've surveyed all of our every like transition teachers, asked all the students like, what would you want to job shadow, and we'll compile a list of that, and then I think that'll be our fastest way and most effective way of getting this done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we have like a calendar of, you know, this day is going to be this option and this option, I think we're going to have more people signing up, because we do tend to plan. I know I plan for, you know, 1 or 2 weeks at a time, but that's because my class is so routine. So when I do something like this that is not in my routine, I need to like be aware of it more than 2 weeks in advance.
I'm same, and I think it would be good for like the 2 separate classes to kind of decide on a time of day, so that it's like every Thursday at 11, like this is the session that, or you know, the first Thursday and the second Thursday, or the first and third Thursday, or something along the lines of that, so that we do continue with that structure.
Yeah, and that's also important, because when we start going in the community and getting back at job sites, we need to be scheduling this in, because otherwise we're just going to be going off campus to get to our jobs, and then we're going to get a 10-minute notification. We're like, uh-oh, not going to make it today.
And if you guys have community partners that you do stuff with, I can share a flyer that you would share with them that helps them sign up on our platform as a professional, so that if you have those ties already, when you're creating sessions, if you want those people to be the professionals to be people you've worked with before that you already have a relationship with, you can still choose them as your professional through the website, so that whether you're going to see them in person, but then maybe you have like a live session from your classroom where they're talking, reflecting, or talking about something else. You can add partners you already have to Nepris. So also with scheduling, it does ask you to, you can add more date options. If you guys are going to like schedule stuff out, I would not add options for dates. So let's say like I was scheduling this for come September. I would only choose the date, like say I want these virtual job shadows to be on Mondays. I would only choose one date for each session. Because since you guys are organizing it ahead of time, you've given us plenty of time to find professionals to fill your spot. But also, if you give us 2 day options, we don't want, if we're looking at a calendar, maybe this week is grocery store clerk or something, and you give us 2 Mondays, if your next professional okays this Monday and this professional wanted this Monday, a little bit of a mix up. So if you do schedule stuff ahead of time, like you're talking about, I would just choose the date you want it to happen. Don't give us any other options. And then the only tricky thing with the time, if you're writing in a time that is a single digit hour, you have to add the 0, or it won't let you, it will say your time is wrong. Okay, that's a date. So session duration, I always suggest that you keep it between 2 hours, 15 minutes and 2 hours. I think anything shorter than 15 minutes is quite a bit of prep work for you and the professionals for only 15 minutes of interaction. And then anything too much more than 2 hours is a bit of an ask a professional to step out of their normal day to come interact with your students. That's just a general time frame. Again, there are no rules on this. If you want a 3-hour session for something, it might be harder to find a professional that can take 3 hours, but we can probably do it. So there isn't a rule. These are just guidelines that I made up. This second to last question, allow other classrooms to join this session. If you leave it on yes, it'll basically kind of make this like an industry chat where it's other teachers from around the country could find it and join with you. If you want it to be like just your school or your class or your students, hit no. So even if I had this question with someone last week, even if you want another classroom in your building to join you, like say, sorry, I'm always using core teacher references. If I have 2 biology classes and I want both teachers want to come at the same time, I'm still going to click no, because if I click yes, any teacher on our platform can join the session. So instead, if it's something like that, you want to share it with another classroom, you're just going to share the link with them and they can join that way. Still make sure this says no. You might have some strangers popping up in your session.
So this might be something that we want to always click yes on if we're going to be sharing it across the district, right?
I mean, yeah, if you're going to share it across district, it's probably.
I was kind of thinking, Sarah, that we could make a Nepris calendar, invite all the transition teachers to be on it, and then the link is just in the calendar every week, or however, like, so that way everybody can just say yes or no, and the link is there, the code is there for it, included in the invite. Because then even teachers that might not be as like well versed in Nepris will still have access to it if they're a transition teacher, and then we don't have strangers coming.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea with if you build like a digital calendar with the link and the code. Yeah, like if you say yes, the only problem is yes, other teachers across your district could join, but it could mean that like 5 teachers on the East Coast also join, and then they're also taking up your time with the professional. I don't know how likely it is that a teacher, like I couldn't see myself as a classroom teacher joining someone else's session that I don't know. So I don't know how likely it is that other people will join. But if you want to make sure other people definitely don't join, I would just hit no and make sure you share the links and codes. So this last box for additional notes, this is where I would suggest you guys kind of type out the support level your students need. And you can give the presenter any other information about your students that they might need, like these are students trying to get their GEDs. This is the support level they'll need during this presentation. If you had like an activity or something you wanted them to be working on while they're in the presentation, it would be, this is a good spot to let the presenter know, like, hey, they're going to be filling out a 3-column note chart while you're speaking, just so you know. I've also had schools use this for like a Women in STEM week. So for this day when they had all this stuff put together, they only wanted females in STEM jobs to fill these sessions. So that's where they noted that for us here, that they didn't want us to fill these sessions with any male professionals because it was a Women in STEM week. This is also a great spot. I love to use this also if, it's really important for our students to see people that look like them and sound like them in jobs and fields that they are interested in. And so if you do have, like, say you have a large Spanish speaking population, you really, really want to make sure that the presenter, looks and sounds like them when they come into your classroom, you could note that here too. We had in that money making video I told you guys about earlier, the 2 chemists were Hispanic. And at the very end of the video, this girl yells something like, I didn't know that scientists could look like me too. And it was just like the sweetest moment. So yes, it's very important for our students to feel represented. And you could also mark here, maybe you want someone with a GED to come to your classroom, if you want the professional coming in to talk to your students about the job that they have and you want them to have the same educational background as your students, you can write that here too. This is pretty much a catch-all for anything you think the presenter or Nepris needs to know to set up this session that we haven't asked you about already.
So it could even be like if we have students, say, with physical limitations, having someone who has those physical limitations as well. Yeah. Being the one talking about like accommodations in the workplace or things like that. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I think any kind of representation your groups of students need or want to see in the workforce, you could write here, for sure. Okay, I'm going to hit the next button. So if you already have, like, I talked about if you had gotten your professionals that you already have relationships with in your community on Nepris, you could just search for them right here if you know you want them to fill the job or the session. If you don't have anyone in mind, or you're like, I just filled out 6 steps of a form, what else do you need from me, Nepris? You just click submit to Nepris and we'll do all that back end work, finding a professional that fits all your needs. If you do choose a professional from the site, they have 48 hours to accept. So if they don't accept after 2 days, then Nepris just takes over automatically. I know that we're 2 minutes over time, but I do want to show you guys. I'm gonna save this as a draft, and I want to show you so that if you guys, like you're talking about making multiple sessions that are the same, but maybe at different support levels, or even just different, maybe the same support level for that same group of students, but different jobs. To find my old session templates, I'm going to hover over session and then go down to my sessions. And this is where everything you've ever signed up or drafted will live. Confirmed sessions mean that you've already confirmed you're going, or they're confirmed coming. If you had just submitted this request, it would be under requested. I saved mine as a draft, so it's under drafts. But I'm going to click, this will look the same whether it's under requested, pending, or draft. So if I just submitted this and I wanted to recreate the same session, but with some tweaks, I'm going to find the session and hit details. And then I'm going to go to actions and copy. And so that's going to copy everything I just filled out back onto this form. So now if I go to the end, I could change the support level that this group needs, or I could change this to maybe like a gas station attendant. I can't spell right now. So I could just change a few things, but basically creating the exact same session with just a few tweaks. Then I can submit it again, and I can do the same thing over and over, however many times I need. This might even be helpful just for your calendar building, so you don't have to go through and recreate this every week or every 2 weeks. You could just copy it and then change what what the job is you want it to be, so that you don't have to keep filling out all 7 steps every time. You just have to go through and change the one you want. I know I'm talking. Oh, go ahead.
I just have one question. It's actually from before. So when we request the recordings, where do we find all the requests that we've made? Is it only that we'll just get an email, or is there anything in the website that shows all the ones we've requested?
I think I'm going to test this for you right now, but I think when you do the email, it doesn't show up anywhere. It will just notify you, but I can see. So these will be so it didn't, it won't show up until after it's done. It'll show up in my videos. If you sign up for like an industry chat for the email, it won't show up under this. This is, if I actually sign up for an industry chat, it'll show up on confirmed until the date, then it will go away. And then once it's edited, it'll show up in my videos.
Awesome.
So this is where all the videos from everything you actually attend will be. And it is actually attend. I have registered to go to some live industry chats, but I didn't actually go. Those videos don't show up here. This is the only live industry chat I've actually attended. So it's the only video that shows up. So
so even if we've requested recordings, they won't show up there as well. It's only live, or if we request recordings, they'll show up there.
If you request if you request the recording, it will show up here when it's done. But if you register to attend it live and then don't attend it live, it will not show up here.
That's good to know.
I know you guys are on time, but I just am going to show you one thing. And I think Sarah left. So maybe she will see on this recording when I share the recording of this with you guys. But like she was saying in the beginning, even most of the videos in our video library, the content and the level were not matching for her students. So if you do find a video in the library that you're interested in, but it's just not, it's not right for your students, every video has this button, recreate this for your classroom. So if I click that, it takes me to this teacher requested session form again, but it will pre-fill out all of the spots to match the video that I just clicked. So, I mean, that was for middle schoolers. I'm going to want to take these off and maybe put adult education or something else. I'll have to go through and tweak some things to fit me, to fit my students, but this is a good way to get the exact video that you want recreated live for your students.
That's great.
Yeah, so that is it. I love that button. So when you see something in the video library and you're like, ooh, I want that for my students, you don't have to do all the work. You just have to click one button and then tweak a few things.
The only other question I had is about how are we going to have our students access this?
I'm going to stop sharing real quick since we don't need that. Well, there's a few ways. So if you want your students to have their own accounts, are you guys still technically high school though? Okay.
Sort of.
We're not high school. They're a transition. So they're 18 to 22. They finished their high school career,
okay.
But we're part of the district, which is a high school district. Okay. I saw in subscription, if you go in there, you can create a code, but then I want to know how to add my students into this.
I will share this again. So there's a couple ways. Are you guys a Google school? Is your email domains are Google? Okay, well, that's even easier. Your students should be able to, with their school email, to sign up with Google and then just select that they're a student.
Okay.
The only way, like how I showed you how you could assign students or assign a video to a class, then your students, I can share this with Travis after this also, or with you, Kiana, if you want it. So under your profile, you can go to My Classes, and then under Import Students, this is where you could import students, and it probably actually won't be that hard for you guys since if you're just focusing on transition students.
We don't have any of that.
Do you not? Oh, so only people with admin can import students. So it's probably Travis. You could provide the list for him, but he would have to actually import them. We have a template. It's just their first name, last name, school email. And then you have to, it just be like copying, pasting your NCES ID over and over. It's so that once these students are imported, they're only tied to your school, so that other teachers from other schools can't select your students and add them to classes, only you can. So once they're imported, then you can add them to classes, and you'll just edit and then add students, and it will only show you a list of students from your school that you've imported.
So basically I need to email Travis right now and be like, yo, dude, you're the only one with admin privileges, and it looks like you're going to have to add all of the students for every single one of our class, or will we all be able to get admin privileges for our own class?
I can probably actually, we typically don't give it to every teacher. But like, if you're going to kind of head this, we could give you admin support.
Well, I don't want to enter everybody's students for them either, though.
So typically we give it to whoever's kind of like how Travis is setting up all of our meetings and stuff. So we usually just give it to that one person, and they just upload like a bulk list of students from the school, which is why we do it that way. But your students, if they do sign up with Google, I'm not sure how making classes will be, because they won't be tied to your school, but they would be able to access everything on their own. Well, mostly everything. Means if If they just signed up with Google as a student, they would be able to access all the video library videos. They would be able to do the Career Explorer on their own. And then since I'm here, I'll just show you what a student account looks like. I think it's this email. Yeah. So this is what a student account looks like. So if they're tied to a class, you can give them a class code, but they can access the video library without class codes. So I don't even know why that's there, but this is where they would enter in any access codes for live sessions and then just hit submit. And then on the day of, they would just have this orange banner, the same thing as a teacher has when it's time to join.